call the Douglas School Committee to order on April 8th, Wednesday at 6:06 p.m. The Douglas Public Schools offer a diverse learning experience that meet the academic, social, and emotional needs of all of our students. We provide a safe, supportive, and challenging and learning environment in which students may achieve academic success and personal growth. Decisions are made in the best interest of our students. We're going to stop here and we're going to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation that open meeting law may be detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body and chairs so declare. Then we will come back in and re-begin our school committee meeting. So I need a roll call vote for us to go into executive session.
Beth Marshall, aye. Meg Robson, aye. Julie Lackerman, aye.
Heather Moore and I. So we're going into executive session at 6:07 p.m. Thank you. much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're going to reopen from our executive session back into the public session, so I need to do a roll call vote of who's all is present.
Correction, here.
Meg Robson here. Julia Lagerman here.
Heather Moore here, and we're starting our public session back at 6:32. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Do we have any student representatives this evening? We should have Max George and Neo Toms. Come on up. You can use the microphone right there.
Just hold the power button down, Leo.
Testing. Hello, my name is Neo. I am a senior at Douglas High School, and it is my honor and privilege to be standing here in front of you and telling you all about the wonderful highlights of last month. This has included the sophomores completing their ELA and PASS. I was speaking to them today, and they said that it went fine and that they love their English teachers. Oh my gosh, so much love, because I was talking to them at the track. Big words from Ms. Petrelli. As for spring sports, we've had our first few competitions, including many PRs at the first track meet against Millbury, and the softball team scoring a huge win against Sutton with tremendous fundraising gains. For softball, they raised $380, and track has raised a whopping $4,000. We have also had our final NICAP session, where we, the seniors, have finished our financial projects, and juniors and sophomores have had guest speakers come in to speak to them, and freshmen have completed their self-discovery unit. I'm pretty happy with our financial project because it gives us a taste of how real-world finances look and how terribly bleak that is. But nevertheless, I think that it is a step in the right direction, because this is teaching us things that are very obviously and transparently applicable in the real world, and I think that this will have tremendous outcomes for our students. Moreover, I personally am very, very jealous of the juniors and the sophomores because they had guest speakers from various industries. I mean, they had people from police, EMT, fire, financial management, architecture, mechanical engineering, physical therapy, and even nursing, which, as certified nursing assistants, is our field. I'm really amazed that we were able to attract such top talent to our school, and it makes me proud that we held something that I have heard described as museum tier. If at all possible, I think that we should continue to do similar things and even have these speakers speak here again. This is an amazing learning opportunity for students, and I think that this could really boost our learning outcomes. Now, as this school year comes to a close, we are entering our fourth and final quarter. We, the seniors, are going to be graduating on May 29th, with everybody else going on break June 18th. Many of the students I've spoken to are also very concerned about the upcoming budget cuts and how this will affect their education, including limiting their elective options and even cutting some teachers. They're really worrying about that because many of the people I've spoken to, I mean, they consider the teachers to be their friends and close allies. But moving on to more points of Douglas pride, though, our wonderful girls basketball team finished off a season to be proud of with a trip to the Final Four, and frankly, it was the eventual state champions that they lost against, so I think that this was definitely a season for the books, and this team is with great promise for the future. I look forward to them someday being state champions. Now, to round off last month's highlights, the counseling department is also helping students and family look towards the future with a college admissions session. Families were explained the admissions process as well as the college visit process and how to narrow their search for schools. Information on how to apply for financial aid and how to get a better idea of how much financial aid to expect was given. That concludes last month's school highlights, and I wanted to finish off by shouting out some of our wonderful teachers doing incredible things outside of the classroom. For example, Mr. Hillman, our lovely business teacher and DECA advisor, who has gotten us in large part to DECA States and DECA Internationals. And we are a very small school. We only have more or less 200 to 300 students, and we are actually punching way above our weight in a number of departments, including athletics and notably in DECA. And this is, in terms of DECA, this is in large part thanks to Mr. Hillman. I mean, his passion for the subject and his willingness to get us to where we need to be has gotten us to send more people to DECA States and DECA Internationals in similar sized programs. And onto athletics, I'd like to thank my coaches, Manka and Thayer, who are somehow training 65 odd kids to be the best runners, jumpers, and throwers that they can possibly be. We're also sending incredible amounts of students to states and even nationals, as I myself have gone to Oregon in the past year. And this was an incredible opportunity that I wouldn't have been offered if it wasn't for coaches Manka and Thayer. I really cannot thank them enough, and I really appreciate our teachers, and I extend my gratitude to them for everything that they have done. I mean, my high school experience would not have been the same without them. So thank you so much for the honor and privilege of getting to stand here and speak to you, and on to Max George for our upcoming school events. Thank you.
Oh, it's all set? Yeah. Just let you know, but hi everyone, my name is Max George. I am a junior here at Douglas. I hope you guys have seen me before because I never leave the building. But I'd like to open with something about me first, delving into a student's schedule like mine. I myself am avid for health sciences, you briefly mentioned our positions as CNAs. Especially with my classes this time of the year, I've gotten to dissect the sheep's brain and grow stimulate bacteria culture all within the first 2 hours. Having what we have for lab equipment and having what we have for lab opportunities has been such an incredible learning experience, and I'm so grateful for it. I always saw it, going through middle school, like, oh, surely they don't do that, but we do it, and it's been so much fun. Shout out to Mrs. Cook. I've had more fun pronouncing medulla oblongata than I could ever hope to. It's been an experience, so I'm thankful for that. But I was asked to actually introduce some upcoming events as we enter the fourth quarter of the school year. Very exciting. Everyone seems to be the happiest when they hear that they don't have to be here for 2 months. So tomorrow, the day is split with the hosting of Gender Sexual Alliances Club, or GSA, for the Community Central Mass Conference. I, myself, and many other students will be there in attendance, bring the community together throughout the state, and I'm very proud that we actually are able to host it here this year. In the afternoon, me and my fellow track athletes will be taking on Sutton High School here at the track for the CMAC meet. You can expect lots of wins, lots of PRs. Be super exciting, lots of Douglas pride. Very, very excited for it. For time's sake, I'm going to rapid fire some upcoming events for the next 12 months, if that's all right. So juniors have SATs next Wednesday. They'll actually be meeting tomorrow as well during intervention, so we can get the rundown for the SAT testing. Super excited, not nerve-wracking. We have our engineering students participating in the MACWIC testing next week as well. This test, when passed, may certify students in areas of machine operation or advanced topics in manufacturing. It assesses competence in areas like shop math, blueprint reading, metrology, and safety practices. Actually, as a MACWIC certified student myself, I get to regularly put that knowledge to use. And I can say I definitely appreciate the Project Lead the Way programs here. It's built student interest in engineering, and it's been, again, another huge opportunity. Next, we have our final STAR testing for students. That will be starting April 27th and moving through May 8th. So that's coming up. Our AP students will be starting exams soon, funnily enough, on Star Wars Day, so May the 4th will be us. I'm not worried, you are. Next, actually, coming up, Drama Club is putting on their spring play on May 15th. You can find me and others. You'll see me, Duke Orsino, on stage, so show up and give out some love for our actors and everyone else behind the scenes. It's going to be 12th night. Pretty exciting, Shakespeare, yeah. Remarkably, the last full day of senior classes is going to be May 18th. This will be followed by finals and then senior week leading to graduation. We're all so excited to let the seniors go. It's like the circle of life when you have to let the baby turtle go to sea just for it to be snatched by the seagull. all in all, though, I'm grateful for the time I've had up here, and I'm excited for the rest of the year, and I can't wait to rock my senior year. So thank you for your time.
All right, a couple of questions. Leah, where are you going after you graduate?
I'm going to Worcester State for nursing.
Awesome. Congrats. When's senior and junior prom?
May 8th. Compliment.
We look for the pictures on Facebook, if nothing else, so just making sure the public knows. What are your aspirations for you next? What are you thinking?
I've always had an incredible interest in the health sciences field and medical field. I've been kind of laser focused on neurosciences, especially cognitive neurosciences, pursuing a field of neuroscience research, treating certain, I guess maybe not diseases, but certain conditions like Alzheimer's or tinnitus, other things like that. I'm looking forward to getting probably my registered nursing license, becoming an RN, and hopefully I can live comfortable enough to do my own research or afford to do my own research in cognitive neurosciences.
Anyone else? Thank you both. Singers, and you guys were just, you warmed up the crowd. We have a crowd tonight, so thank you, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on to the next step. Anybody here for public comment? Seeing that there is none, we're going to move on to any old business
None at this time.
or any new business.
So we need to open into our public hearing. So I'll ask the school committee for a roll call vote to start our public hearing to discuss our budget and school choice participation.
Absolutely. Roll call vote, please.
Beth Ferguson, you.
Aye.
Aye. Meg Rossin, aye. Julia Lagerfeld, aye.
Heather Moore and aye.
All right, thank you. So the way this will work is we'll start off with the proposed budget and do that when I finish the budget. Because this is a public hearing, we'll give the community an opportunity to come up to the mic and ask any questions they may have on the budget. Have the school committee ask some questions on the budget. When we've exhausted that, we'll close the public, move on to school choice, close the public hearing, and then at the consent agenda time, you would vote on the bottom line appropriation for the budget. Where am I pointing this at?
Either way.
So, I want to start off by saying, I've said this before, this has been my most difficult budget in my 6 years here in Douglas. And as our mission statement says, decisions are based in the best interest of students. But this budget here does not represent what's best for our kids, what's best for our community, what's best for our schools. It represents our financial realities and where we're at this point in 2027. Unfortunately, costs are increasing at a greater rate than what our revenues are coming in. Throughout this whole process, though, I will say this has been an extremely collaborative process. I'm thankful for Ms. Landry for the work that she's done, the support of the school committee, the administrative team. The teachers have been fantastic throughout this process as partners and collaborators and support. I know a lot of community members have reached out to Senator Fatman and to Staver McKenna. We met with them last week, and just know that your voices were heard by them, and they're trying to do something to help us out. So know that helped, those phone calls, those emails were supportive. And in the back, I'd like to recognize the chair of the Board of Selectmen, and again, between the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, their support has helped us get through this budget. Not exactly where we want to be, but better than any further cuts that we need to make. So this was truly a collaborative process. I shared this, we talked about it again at the Board of Selectmen. This is not, and I want to emphasize, this is not a one-year problem. This isn't something that we're going to get through 27, it's going to go away in 28. This is a multi-year issue. Revenues available to most school districts have remained relatively flat, and state funding has increased in recent years, but not enough to offset the rapid rising expenses. And local communities, especially those without sizable commercial sector, rely heavily on residential taxes, which cannot increase greater than 2.5% without an override. This was a slide that the state put out last year, and I think it's just a telling example of when we talk about expenses growing at a greater rate than what we can absorb, and the formula being broken, this speaks to it. Tuition at school approved, the state's operational service division has increased dramatically over the past 4 years. Historically, we'd seen about a 2% increase. In FY24, we had a 14% increase, which amounted to about $175,000. In FY25, it was 4.7%. In FY26, it was 3.67. This year, we're estimating a 3% increase. It's over $1 million over a 4-year period, which is a lot of money. The state's circuit breaker program only provides partial reimbursement for tuition costs. People think that the circuit breaker is this windfall of money that comes to schools, and it's not. And I've used this example before, I'll use it again. If you take an average tuition of $74,000 for an out-of-district placement, the threshold for FY26 is $53,416. That means the district's responsible for $53,416. The delta, the difference between the 74 and that number, is $20,584. Full reimbursement is at 75%. That's what they're considering full reimbursement. We fluctuate between 65 and 75% reimbursement. So if we were going to get the 75% reimbursement of that $20,000, it's $15,438. So we're responsible for that $74,000 tuition for almost $60,000 of it, and we're getting reimbursed about $15,000. So it's not like we're getting reimbursed for the entire amount.
Can we clarify when we're getting reimbursed?
And we get reimbursed in the rear. So if a student goes out this year, we do not receive the funding for that student until next year. And we have to find the funding within our operating budget this year. The other issue is transportation. There's no regulation as to what companies can charge for transportation. So you see some transportation runs being at $180, some being at $350. So we need to look at that formula. This next one, I hope you can see it, talks about our budget drivers. What's our revenue? If you look at circuit breaker, school choice, and grants, those are 3 big buckets of where we receive our funding. You can see those have steadily declined or been flat over the past 10 years. The only substantive increase has been our town appropriation, which has gone up $12.6 million to almost $17 million over the past 10 years. Now, although you can make the argument that those offset each other, which they may, it doesn't mean that it funds the budget because our costs continue to increase, but our revenue has been flat. Did I miss anything on that one?
Sounds good.
Okay. Our drivers here, in terms of expenses, these are our main buckets of where we are spending our money. If you look at instructional supplies, facilities, utilities, and all other, you can go back to 23, 24, 25, 26, and now projected 27, and you can see they're relatively flat. Our 2 main drivers represented with the red and the green graphs are salaries and our special education costs. For salaries, from FY23 to FY26, we saw a 14% increase, and from FY23 to FY27, due to the reductions, it's an 11% increase. So that's one main driver. And the second driver is the cost of special education, which from 23 through 27 has gone up 36%. These are our buckets based off of percentage. 95% of our costs are fixed costs, salaries, special education, and utilities. The other 5% are custodians, instructional supplies, and other. So really the only place when you're looking at making reductions is unfortunately through staff. 95% of our costs are fixed costs. I'm going to have Diana dive a little bit more into our revolving accounts. You can see again the decline, and we've relied heavily on school choice and circuit breaker as the mechanism to help offset and fund our operating.
So I'm going to start with circuit breaker first. You do understand the formula that was explained. When we receive money back, that's your receipts line. So that's the only money that we're getting in, as Dr. Vieira explained. The expenses that go out of circuit breaker are all related to special education. You'll notice a bit of a fluctuation. I do want to make a note for FY25 and FY26. Those numbers are a little more flat in terms of receipts than what they're looking at. They made an adjustment late in FY26 that was related to FY24. So those numbers have remained constant. Why it looks like there's a dip of receipts in FY27, we don't know yet at what rate we're going to be reimbursed. We have to be conservative and we have to assume the lower rate of 65%. In terms of expenses, again, special education expenses, we're leaving, next year, we're leaving about less than $500,000 in the revolving account. What does that mean? We don't build contingencies into our budget. We don't say, well, what if? We just don't have the funding to do that. We have $500,000 for unanticipated, unexpected expenses, such as a move-in, such as a change in placement, and change in services. We like that balance to be higher. This is how we balanced the budget this year. When we talk about school choice, we get revenue in from, again, those kiddos that are moving into district with us. Why are those receipts going down? The number of students coming in is decreasing. In FY23, we had about 108 students coming in. Right now, we're in FY26, we're projecting 84 students coming in. So that's where the decline in the receipts is. And again, expenses, we use this account to offset anything that we can't fund through our general budget. Again, we're leaving that balance a little lower than we would like. This would be unanticipated costs, a fan breaking or a rooftop unit breaking, other fixes in the facility world, or unexpected expenses that might come up that are needed for students. They all come out of this pocket of money.
So these are our reductions. The only changes from what you're seeing here today, from what I presented previously, is an additional paraprofessional and an ADA, which we'll discuss on the next slide. So for next year, there are 21 positions that are eliminated, 10.26 DTA members, and 17.7% of our paraprofessional membership. And when the principals and the directors presented on this, we presented the impact of it. And what we tried to do was, as we did this, is minimize the impact on our students. It's going to mean an increase in class size. It's going to mean less services in some instances. It's going to be a greater burden on staff. In some instances, it may be less course offerings at the high school and at the middle school level. But we had to come to a balanced budget. And these were the reductions that we felt we needed to make in order to come to that balanced budget for next year. Before I turn it over to Ms. Landry, the number that we were looking at last time when I presented the 18th was about $763,000. I think I said if we have to cover that all through staff, we'll be looking at 11.2 staff members. Again, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank, for starters, the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee. There's a warrant article on the town meeting floor for May 4th for $394,000 to help offset the $763,000. That $394,000 helped save 5 teaching positions. So we're grateful for the Board of Selectmen and for the Finance Committee for agreeing to that. It still has to go to town meeting floor, still needs to pass on town meeting floor, but that helped us not have to reduce 5 additional positions. And then through some work that Ms. Landry and we all did, we were able to reduce the budget to 0 without having to go too much deeper into our teaching staff and not having people lose their jobs. So with that said, we'll walk you through what's happened in the past 3.5 weeks to get us to this point.
So how did we get here? I noticed quite a few faces out there, so you may have heard this and walked through this with us. In November, I collected submissions. The principals, department heads, staff, they were asked, what do you need for next year? We cumulatively put that all together. A bit of wish and a lot of want is what was in this budget. We had a $2.9 million deficit that we needed to close. We then sharpened our pencils. We took a look around. We said, what can we do? Obviously, we need a balanced budget. We released about $700,000 in revolving funds. Again, what I had just walked through in the prior slide. We, at that point, we had cut 4 vacant positions and 6 retirees were not to be replaced. We had line item reductions of these wishes and some technology cuts, and that was about $700,000, bringing our deficit down to about $1.5 million. This is when we had the really difficult choices to make. There's not that much in line reductions left to make. As you saw, 95% of our costs are fixed. And that's when we saw the additional headcounts, the staff reductions that you were just referring to about. What happened then was we came down to a deficit of about $762,000. This is what you're seeing up here on the screen. We had a few reductions, line items. We had to increase our fuel cost because, well, we all know what's going on. We needed to make sure that we were properly budgeted for there. The elimination of a vacant position, an ABA position, and also the elimination of the kindergarten para at the primary school, with those class sizes being brought down from 5 to 4. The elimination of the para was necessary as well. We then again took a look at releasing some funds out of our revolving account. We're coming towards the end of the year. We're realizing that a lot of our costs are already accounted for. We also did what's called extraordinary relief. So what Circuit Breaker does is in the current year that you're at, if you expended over 25% over your prior year expenditures, you're allowed to have extraordinary relief. And what that means is in that year, they will give a portion of money back to you that you expended over the prior year. Right now, that looks like about $59,000. We can get back anywhere from 50 to 75% of what we had allocated, but we don't know that because it's one pool of money that the state divides out to everybody that applies for the extraordinary relief. All of that coupled with the additional town funding of the $394,000 has helped us come down to a balanced budget of 0. This $394,000 will be voted for on May 4th, so please go to town meeting.
So then our budget summary, and I'll just read the numbers for people to see how we got here. Our general fund from FY26 total appropriation for the town was $15,957,606. The town appropriated an amount of 4% on top of that, which is $638,304. Additionally, which we're hoping passes the town meeting, a one-time appropriation of $394,000 for a total FY27 town appropriation of $16,989,910. Our total FY27 school budget is $19,343,952. Through the use of grants, revolving funds to offset the operating, we were able to allocate $2,354,042, bringing our proposed general fund budget to $16,989,910, which leaves us with a balanced budget. Our percent increase from 26 to 27 is a 6.47% increase from last year to this year. that we need to go through. First is the Finance Committee public hearing, where they'll vote to approve the warrant article with the 394 on it, and then town meeting, which will be here on May 4th at 7 o'clock. I did this slide at the Board of Selectmen and the Finance. I think it's important to, again, just as we're thinking ahead for what's happening. As I said earlier, the Douglas Public Schools and other town departments, if you talk to department heads, are facing a significant financial challenge, the perfect storm that we talked about. These financial pressures are not unique to Douglas. We're seeing them all over. We have neighboring communities going for overrides across the valley and across the Commonwealth. We worked extremely collaboratively with the town administrator, the Finance Committee, and the Board of Selectmen to find a balanced approach so we would not have to eliminate any more staff. Our goal was to address the FY27 budget without further diminishing the quality of the education for our students and placing undue financial strain on the town. I know we need to get through 27, but again, just to remind people that the outlook for 28 is worse than the outlook for 27. The goal is to get through this 27 budget process and following town meeting, begin the conversations with the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and the Attorney as to how we need to attack the FY28 budget cycle in the season. So with that said, I'll open it up to the community. Please feel free if you have any questions, come to the mic, state your name and address, and ask your question. If I can't answer it, Ms. Lynn, we have our administrative team that can answer it. No one has any questions, then we'll turn it over to the school committee. No one wants to start, we can start with, we'll give a few minute wait time. School committee can start, and maybe that gets people going, but
Do we have copies for anybody that wanted to look at the budget?
we have copies of the budget, Ms. Levy has.
Does
So if you have
anybody
questions,
want to
feel free
see
to
one
come
of
up.
them?
So I just
Come
also
on
want to
down.
thank, sorry.
Come on down.
I just want to thank the town too, on Article 4, on the capital improvement project. We did get servers for the school, that's $100,000, that didn't have to come out of the school budget. So again, the collaboration on the town side has been bar none, the best we've seen in a very long time, but that's been the building block we've been laying the foundation for the past couple of years to work collaboratively. But that saved us $100,000 out of the school budget by putting it on the town side of capital improvement. So you will see that as an Article 4 on the warrant for town meeting.
And then we'll also point out Article 19, which is one of the articles. Our primary school roof, the main part of it, has a 20-year warranty. It's going on, I believe, year 30, 31.
I think it was put on when I was here.
Excuse me?
I think it was put on when I was in the primary school.
It was put on when you were in the primary school.
Pretty sure.
And the town is, we are accepting the MSB, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and they're reimbursing us for windows, doors, and roof at a rate of 57.74, or 94% for the project. Article 19, the first step of the process is to do a schematic design, which is basically coming and looking at the roof, looking at the windows, looking at the doors, and deciding how we go about attacking that process. And there's a warrant article for $350,000 to fund that, of which a large portion of that, 57%, is reimbursed. So again, the town has been very supportive, very collaborative between 394 to help offset the budget, the $100,000 in our servers, the potential for 350 for a new roof, to start the process of a new roof, windows, and doors. It's been
In your most recent email to the district or to district parents, if the 21 was reflected, the last one I could find says 14.
So, that's a good point. So, in my first communication that went out, I said we eliminated some positions that were vacant and through retirements. I never listed the names of the people, I never listed the positions. The second one had the 14. So if you took the 14.5 and the ones from the first email, you had 19.5, I believe. And then we added one position, but back to the 1.5 position, back to this one. And then we had to remove 2 additional ones. I was going back and forth, Becky, sending something out. Every time I wrote the email, I was meeting with Matt, the number was going up, the number was going down. something changed in special education. Diana came to see me and said, oil just went up, oil just went back down, and I was going to hold off till tomorrow to send something out because I caught myself rewriting that email because things were changing every single day.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I appreciate that, and I know that you've been in a lot of meetings. I've watched several of them. So I appreciate that, and I know that no one is happy here. So, but I do think it could be helpful to communicate that sort of stuff a little bit more. Like I would like an email that would have said 21 before coming here tonight, because that was a surprise to me. That 14 is something to be happy about either.
Right.
And then I guess my last sort of two questions is whether somebody could talk a little bit about Chapter 70 and how that relates to all of this and our funding, and then also whether, because it seems to be a Blackstone Valley issue and a statewide issue, I know that once in a while meetings out here, people say like, you know, contact your representatives, but is there going to be, or is there any talk of any sort of like concerted group effort among superintendents, among teachers associations within these towns that are being largely affected by it, so that's not like a handful of moms and dads sprinkled throughout saying, hey, this is a problem, because it's a significant problem and it is now, and to your point, what happens next year when those costs go up? We're going to keep coming to the town for another $400,000, $500,000 every single time. So, Chapter 70, we could talk a little bit about, and whether there's any sort of like plan in a group effort for people who are being affected by this.
I like someone who also talks with their hands. I'm going to turn it over to Diana to talk
Thank
about
you.
Chapter 70, and I'll answer the next part.
At a high level, Chapter 70 has not been good to smaller rural towns. I can say that Chapter 70 this year gave us $27,000 more dollars than last year. That didn't help any of our cost of expenses. It is a statewide issue. It is a statewide problem that many people talk about. I am part of Massachusetts Business Manager. We talk about it all the time. DESE has liaisons into the state financial department, which are talking with them as well. They know that this formula has got to be revamped. So there are larger groups than just moms and dads, but keep with the moms and dads. Please keep on with that. We know it's an issue, and they're working on it. The reality is with any sort of formula change that they do, it's going to take probably 3 years to kind of roll out before we would see any sort of effect.
Can we just clarify, though, that report is due to the state, right? That's at the end of this year, June, it's going to go. And so then they're going to hem and haw for a year. Then we'll see what they propose. And so, like Ms. Landy just said, it's going to be 2 to 3 years. So the state is looking at it. It's just not looking at it fast enough.
Yes. I know that on the 30th, there was over 800 people between the Massachusetts Association of School Committees and Superintendents in the State House, actually really advocating and talking to all the different legislators about their concerns.
To the next part of your point, and just had to pull up an email. You said March 31st, it was an advocacy group for teachers and parents that went up to the State House and met. At the Finance Committee meeting, one of the suggestions was to put on the town website the names and the contact information for our state senators and state reps to give you greater access. All the superintendents across the Commonwealth over the past 6 weeks have met with the state legislators and groups and talked about funding issues that are facing school districts. We just all wrote our state legislators a letter today. I'll read you a part of it. It says, the Massachusetts Senate could vote as early as tomorrow on Bill S3041, supplemental appropriation to the state budget. What they're looking at is funding circuit breaker at $232 million, which would fund it, that and transportation at the 75%. So it wouldn't dip below the 75%. The other piece that would impact us is funding rural aid at the full $4 million. So that letter went out. I sent a letter to both Senator Fatman and to State Rep McKenna today for them to have that on their radars for if that goes to the floor tomorrow. In terms of grassroots groups, I haven't seen anything, how that's starting, but it's conversations like this that start. I know, again, several parents, when we met with Brian and Joe, they said they've received a lot of emails from families here about the concern of the budget, and they're hearing it. So that's how that momentum starts. You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Lindsay. I have 229 South Street. I was looking through this, and I know a lot of schools do like, you can pay for the busing. That everybody who decides to do the busing has to pay for it instead of having to do busing. I know looking through the budget, it's about $2.3 million of the 2026 budget. Has that been anything that has been discussed as an option to offset any of the costs? I personally would rather pay for my kids to take the bus than to lose that many teachers.
I'll start, then I'll turn it over to the school committee. Fees are tough for families. It really creates a barrier for access. We see students who, whether it's for sports fees, for user fees, for preschool fees, it's a barrier for people to have access to it. It's one thing if you're doing a user fee for, or fee for preschool, which isn't mandatory. But when you're talking about something that's mandatory for a kid to have access to, transportation, you're placing a significant barrier on families for it. There are some school districts that do have, they do charge for busing, and you could charge whatever it is, $200, $300, $400 for busing. And if you multiply that by the number of students who take the bus, you could probably offset the budget by about $500,000. But then that puts a different burden on families. That's something we didn't entertain. We've had some spirited discussions over my 6 years here about raising sports fees $25, and the committee really hasn't been excited about that option. I don't know what the appetite would be to charge people $400 for it. At this point, it wouldn't be something I would recommend, but I'll turn it over to.
Can we have him clarify one thing? The budget that she's looking at for busing, is that including the special education busing as well?
So-
In that line item?
It did. It said regular transportation and special education transportation was $2,382,899 for 2020.
So just to clarify, transportation does not come out of our budget. Transportation, both special education and in-district, is funded by the town.
Okay.
So although it's all one pocket of money, it's represented there for people to see what the expense is, but that does not come out of our operating. So if, we'd have to figure it out with a mechanism, if we were ever to charge for busing, we would receive the funds and then figure out a mechanism to release that to the town to then help offset the budget somewhere else. But we do not control transportation or the transportation money. That comes from the town, as does insurance.
Okay.
And if I could just clarify, I believe how it's been told to me, because I was back here in 2008 asking the same question. When they built the high school, they promised that they would never charge a fee for busing. And that's why we do not charge a fee for busing, because we don't have sidewalks for our kids to walk on. So we'd have to go back to the town, put it in town meeting to be voted for us to be able to charge, because I believe it's in the charter when they built the high school. So, because when we were doing zoning measures back in 2008, that was the first line item I went to, is bus transportation. I would gladly pay.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate all of that. My second question, and I don't know if this is a part that has been figured out yet, but my son benefits from the Title I program. He does English with Mrs. Cordani and math with Mrs. Tiddell, and I've seen that one of the positions, or it said half, so I don't know if that means it's getting cut completely or part-time. I don't know what 0.5 means.
Sure. I'll have Cindy come up. Mr. Haynes is not feeling well. So he's in here today. social come talking about, but before that, the two Title I positions, they spend half their day at the primary school, half the day at the elementary school. So when you look at if you look at their salaries in the budget, half of them are allocated to the elementary, half of them are allocated to the primary. So when you look at that slide, it's half elementary, half primary, which equals one whole.
Oh, okay.
But Ms. Socia talked about how we're addressing that in math in both the primary and the elementary school.
One thing you should know is this year in Title I funding from federal grants was $121,000, and next year is projected to be $48,000.
Wow.
And that's a federal grant, so that didn't help our situation at all, as you can imagine.
Is that mic on?
I was just listening, I don't think it is. Just hold the gray button down for 2 seconds. See the light?
All right, well,
Okay. Now it's on. Okay. Do I have to repeat that or? Good. All right.
It went through.
It went through, okay, good. We don't want to cut anything. This is a Tier 2 intervention that we have had. I can remember hiring for that position because we never had it. We only had literacy and reading way back. I think it was about 8 years ago that we put it in. So we will identify those students just like we would, and whether we had Title I or not, through our STAR assessment, we'll identify them. The classroom teachers will know exactly who were the students that were identified as having needs in math. And then the classroom teachers will be using their Go Math, which has an intervention piece to it. They'll be looking at grouping those children into their small groups and using a lot of hands-on. We've had a lot of PD in the past, so we're going to go back and look at that PD again, use those manipulatives, use the hands-on. We also use the ST Math, and that has skill-based puzzles for the students, so we'll be able to tell what skills they're lacking, assign those puzzles, so that's in a supplementary program to the regular math program.
Okay. All right,
So,
thank you.
that help?
Yes.
Hi, Carrie Kroback, 38 Pond Street in Douglas. First off, thank you for everything that you've been doing going through this, because as a parent of 3 small children, it doesn't look good of like what's going to be the future of our kids. And I've come up with a million scenarios in my head of, on paper, this looks great and we should do this instead, but in reality, it likely wouldn't work. So really just one follow-up question in regards to taking away Title I math. What are we going to do without that true intervention with the children struggling? Like, yes, we can give them more ST math time, we can give them more manipulatives, but aren't those things already implemented in their classrooms now? So weren't we pulling them out of the classroom to give that additional support because they needed more than what the classroom could give?
Some of the pull-out, they don't necessarily, some kids go out for math in Title I, and some just have some extra support in the classroom. So not necessarily does everybody get a pull-out situation. So yes, some of that does happen. The teachers are going to have to focus in on those small group and differentiation and using the intervention piece that comes with the program, which is something they didn't do because they had the Title I. So they do have the tools, it's just now they need to implement that. And if anybody has, a para, they can definitely support when they're in there. So we'll have to look at the individual models in every class, in every grade, and see who do we have. If we have that extra person, that's great. And if not, then it's going to fall on the classroom teacher to make sure that we're hitting those skills.
Thank you. One other question, and my children are currently younger, but high school isn't that far off, or at least one of them. I know a lot of the positions that were being cut were high school positions, and I know that the past few years, the focus has been keeping kids in Douglas. So if we're cutting electives and we're having larger class sizes, how are we looking at the big picture of keeping kids in Douglas?
Sure. That was a very difficult balance. We all know the importance of the foundation. You gotta invest in early childhood education and catch them when they're young. When we looked at pre-K through grade 5, the primary and the elementary school, all grades have about 4 teachers, or not about, they have 4 teachers per grade level. We fluctuate between 75 and 100 students per grade level. So when you divide that by 4, you're looking at class sizes between 18 and 25. To go to 3 teachers per grade level in K through 5, and dividing 3 into 100, 33 first and second graders is way too many kids in a class. So we really looked at prioritizing class sizes at the elementary schools. Specials were important. They're important to kids. Regardless of your age, you need that break. You need that break in whatever part of the day it is for it. I'm in the primary, I'm in the elementary. I see how excited they are to go see Mrs. Smith. I know how much they like art. I listen to the music. It's important for kids to have access for that. We really didn't want to eliminate specials. Then you get to the middle school. There's an ELA, math, science, and social studies teacher. We have to teach those 4 areas. We couldn't eliminate a teacher there, or we couldn't eliminate a teacher and have them double up with 1 teacher and have class sizes in the 30s. So really, the other place where we looked at where we couldn't make the reductions are at the high school. So I said this in other settings. If you look at ELA and you look at math, our average class size is about 13 students. So the average class size is going to go from 13 to 18 at the high school, which is still less than what we're seeing in grades K to 8. Where you're really going to see the hit is in your honors level classes. And I think I gave this example before. Currently, we offer 4 sections of everything. Let's say English 9. We offer 2 college prep and 2 honors, each with, let's call it for simplicity's sake, 14 students. So we're going to continue to see those class sizes in college prep go from 14 to 18 because we're going to offer the 2 sections. But instead of offering 2 sections of honors at 14 and 14, we're going to offer 1 at 28. So those numbers are going to go up. We are going to see slightly less electives in the sciences through the elimination of the biology, and with the combination of tech ed and music, we're going to see some other reductions. The hope is that the new formula with BBT and the cap that they put on there, which sets a limit as to how many students can apply, anyone can apply, how many students can go to BBT, that cap is going to organically limit the exodus to BBT, which is the hope over an extended period of time. But to your point, we're trying to stop kids from going to BBT, keep them in here. We're hitting the high school, but we were also looking at if we went to the primary, the elementary, or the middle, where would we go? It was either specials or class sizes of 33, and we looked at going to the high school and raising classes to the high teens, low 20s, and eliminating some of the electives.
Right.
Not a great, I'm not happy about it.
It's not good regardless, exactly.
Yeah, it is, I mean, I don't feel good saying that, but I just wanted to answer your question.
No, thank you. So with the cap now with BBT, are we thinking that that will solve for anyone school choicing out for high school, like keeping everybody in Douglas? If we're losing the electives, are we thinking big picture that we'll still lose the students?
We could still lose the students.